3rd, 2018 regular meeting of the Detroit Planning Commission. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance to the room. Additionally, the agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the city's website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission. The roles and responsibilities of the Planning Commission are outlined on the reverse side of tonight's agenda. State law establishes planning commissions. The commission is comprised of 9 members, all of whom have volunteered to serve. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. The other individuals seated at the table this evening are representatives of the city's planning department, the city attorney's office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman and Associates. If you wish to address the planning commission, please come forward when recognized and provide your name and address on a sign-on sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the planning commission, not to anyone else in the room. At this time, I ask that all cell phones, PDAs, or any other devices that might disrupt this meeting, please either be placed in silent mode or be turned off. The roll call, Ms. Arnicki, please.
Mr. Abhidian?
Here.
Ms. Cruz?
Here.
Mr. Edmonds?
Here.
Mr. Faison?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krent?
Here.
Ms. Krupa?
Here.
Mr. Zanzika?
Here.
Mr. Tagle?
Here.
Ms. Howe?
Here.
Present. Item number 2 on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please? Ms. Krupa.
I have a motion to amend the agenda. Item 9 is not this week. It will be in our next planning commission meeting.
I jumped the gun on that. I put on the agenda prematurely.
Okay, then we will amend the agenda. We will delete item 9 from the agenda, and the motion by Mr. Faison, and a second, Mr. Tagle. Roll call, please, Ms. Arnicki.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Ms. Krupa?
Definitely yes.
Mr. Zanzika?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Abhidian?
Yes. Item number 3 on the agenda, approval of the minutes for the January 9, 2018 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Edmonds,
Yes.
and a second, Ms. Krupa. Roll call, Ms. Sarnicki, please.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Ms. Krupa?
Yes.
Mr. Zanzika?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Abhidian?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Item number 4 on the agenda, public comment for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to make a public comment for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to item number 5, ZBA report. Ms. Krupa?
We had 2 items on the agenda at the last CBA meeting. One of them was asked by the person requesting the variance to postpone it. And the other one was very, very complicated, and I'm not going to try and explain it to you, just be said that we denied it. We had Nino Licari, our tax assessor, there. It had to do with splitting a parcel of land and all sorts of interesting things that happened years ago and revisiting all of that. So if you are interested, it will take a longer time to explain. We can take it offline, but it was denied. That is our ZBA meeting for January.
Okay, thank you.
What was the vote on that? Do you remember?
One person did not want to deny the variance. The rest of us did.
So what was
Do
the
you need to know?
variance they were seeking?
I can look it up.
Were they seeking a lot frontage
Split,
variance?
yeah.
But
Yeah.
was it an area variance, or was it a lot
It was
frontage?
a lack of frontage.
Lack of frontage?
Did not meet the minimum frontage requirements.
It was size too, wasn't it?
There's a size issue. It was, like I said, it's extremely complicated. It wasn't just, the lack of frontage was the obvious reason to deny it, but there were other complicating factors. They wanted it split because of tax purposes, but they wanted it to simplify the tax that was assessed on the property, but.
Okay. Item number 6 on the agenda, Downtown Development Authority. Mr. Carlisle.
I'll do that. There was a DDA meeting last Wednesday. It was a quarterly meeting as required by state law. I typically attend those. I was homesick, but I think it was There was nothing really significant on the agenda. It was a quarterly meeting that we held.
Okay. Item number 7, planning and zoning report.
Reminder to the Planning Commission, the February 13th meeting, second Tuesday, is canceled, and we have the retreat on that day, starting at noon. So you'll get more information in the mail, but just another reminder. Why that is important is it gives us an opportunity for staff, Planning Commission, City Council to interact, and we also set our strategies for the upcoming fiscal year. That's it.
Thank you. Item number 8 on the agenda tonight, our one and only item, our main item, preliminary site plan review, file number SPJPLN 2017-0013/0014, proposed Yard House Restaurant and Season 52 Restaurant, northeast corner of Big Beaver and Crooks, 950 and 1000 West Big Beaver, Section 21, currently zoned BB, Big Beaver District. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening to the Planning Commission and the public. I feel like a broken record when I always say I feel like the Planning Commission is very well familiar with this project. If the Planning Commission remembers, at the last meeting, we approved the last outlet building on the southeast corner of the development. The only 2 remaining developments for this proposal are the 2 remaining outlet pads for the restaurants that we'll discuss tonight. If the Planning Commission remembers, we last considered this at our meeting in November of last year. And at that meeting, there was discussion on 5 matters. I would say 2 or 3 of them were significant and the other 3 were less significant. I'll quickly highlight those discussion points and how the applicant has addressed those points, and then allow time for the applicant to explain the program itself. The first was in regards to the landscape plan. There's a question about the landscaping for the proposed buildings, as well as consistency with the remaining portions of the site. We have confirmed with the developer of the site, the master developer of the site, that there will be consistency with landscaping throughout the site, and that will be done and reviewed as part of the final site plan submittal for the entire site. Secondly, the same issue with regard to streetscape. Does the streetscape match Big Beaver and what they're going to do on Crooks? Again, the master developer will submit finalized details of the streetscape program to ensure consistency on the entire site as part of the final site plan. Specifically to the 2 proposals to 2 buildings in front of us tonight. One is a Seasons 52 restaurant and one is a Yard House restaurant. The first question was regards to dumpster detail and dumpster screening. The Planning Commission remembers they had indicated a location for the dumpsters without any details about how that was going to be screened. They have gone above and beyond the normal screening requirements that we do require. Not only are they providing a masonry wall, they're actually providing a masonry building to screen the trash enclosure. So you can see in front of you, they've got a masonry building with metal gate doors in front, as well as a man door access door on the side to allow people to dump trash in there without having to open the 2 doors. We do note that the masonry material shown is consistent with the masonry material used in the buildings. The next item was a photometric plan. They provide details on the photometric plan. They have provided the details of the photometric plan. The photometric requirements do meet the ordinance requirements. We do note that the Seasons 52 is using, I believe the Seasons 52 is using an uplight light fixture. That does not meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance in terms of full shielded light fixture. However, the Planning Commission does have discretion to approve features, light fixtures such as that, if they're used as a decorative feature. So that's something the Planning Commission should consider in their deliberation of the buildings. Lastly, and the main discussion of why this was postponed at the last Planning Commission discussion was in regards to the architecture material use, specifically the architecture material used for Seasons 52. The applicant for Yard House had, the architect was here for the Yard House discussion, gave a very thorough, detailed explanation of the proposed design of the Yard House, and there was limited discussion, there was robust discussion with the Planning Commission, but limited questions from the Planning Commission in regards to that design program. There was a lot of discussion with the Planning Commission members on the Seasons 52 restaurant. That restaurant is the one that's going to be located on the frontage of Crooks Road. It's going to be the most visible from the public right-of-way. Since that meeting, Director Savanant and I have had continuing ongoing discussions with the applicant in regards to the design program. And since then, we find they've made a significant change to the building. These changes include they've added transparency to all the elevations, specifically transparency to the west elevation, which is the Crooks Road elevation, and the north elevation, which is where a main parking lot location is. We do find that the building does meet all the transparency requirements for all 4 sides. They have reduced the amount of EFS on all 4 elevations, and they can go into more detail about how that was done. They softened the color profiles. If Planning Commission remembers, we had some questions about the colors that were proposed, if they're appropriate for this context, appropriate for this location, et cetera. And lastly, they provided more dedicated and defined pedestrian path to the front of the building from Crooks Road to meet the orange requirements. I'll just conclude in noting that we did send the architect and their applicant a list of the design questions that we asked the architects to respond to. They did not give us anything in writing, however, they have acknowledged that they are able to speak to those 7 questions tonight. So with that, I'm going to hand over the Planning Commission if you have any questions, and then I know the applicant's here to give a full presentation of their design.
Thank you, Mr. Carlo. Any questions for Mr. Carlo? You don't have any questions, and I believe the applicant is here tonight for a presentation to address the questions, the issues that were brought up by the Planning Commission. You can use that mic right there. It doesn't amplify, but it does record for video purposes of the meeting.
Good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Jack DeGagne. I'm with Darden Restaurants out of Orlando, Florida. I'm the site development manager for Darden Restaurants, and have been working with Ben and Brent, and just as far as on these projects, and a lot of. I want to thank you very much for all the efforts as we work together on this project. Very excited to be back up here, except it's a little cold. So, and this my blood's thin, so it's a little cold for me tonight. So if I shiver a little bit, I apologize. Mainly, I just wanted to say hello, and then at the request, as far as for this meeting, I brought the whole. We've got the team up here. As far as I've got Jose Torres and Norberto Loiano with Slattery Architects to represent for the Seasons 52. I got Trish Neerhoof with API for the Yard House project. Cameron Horvath with Boss Engineering is our civil engineering representative. And then I've got myself, and then also Chris Fortmuller. And Chris Fortmuller is the brand design manager for Darden for the Seasons 52 project. And then also, it's a great pleasure because it was the first time I've got to meet him in person, is I've got Jason Krieger with Krieger Klatt Architects, the developer's architect. I asked for if he would join us tonight just in case if there was any questions. So with this great team here, be glad to present, as far as our presentation, and we'd like to start with the Seasons 52. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening. My name is Norberto Loiano with Slattery and Associates. Here I'm with Jose Torres, associate of the office as well. I would like to thank you, the staff. I think that we were very receptive with the comments that we had from all of you, and we put a lot of thinking, a lot of effort, and I think that we accomplished a very good product. I think it's a better building than it was before. So if you have any questions, we are very glad to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions from the Planning Commission for the applicant, for the architect? Can you address the one item on the lighting that was brought up? That was, does it meet our ordinance requirements in terms of, I believe you said shielding? Is that what's your house?
The yard,
What was
the
the
yard
yard
house?
house?
It was for, excuse me, the question was regarding the Yard House development or the?
That applied to your house?
Because,
We'll just take it one at a time.
right. Did we get to the Yard House part? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Sala.
So, Mr. Carlisle and myself interacted with a lot of members of the team numerous times on the Seasons 52, and I would agree they were very receptive to our input and the Planning Commission's input. We had a lot of back and forth, and it was a really respectful and positive and constructive dialogue that we had. Probably spent well over an hour on the phone together, I would say. So could you just speak to some of the design challenges that you had with the ordinance and how you came up with solutions to those challenges? I'm thinking, for example, could you talk to the connectivity and the transparency?
Yes, my name is Jose Torres from Smiley and Associates, and basically the intent and the idea that we have on the building itself was to create emphasis to the elevation that face Crooks Road, and by that mean we, in conversation with Brent and Ben and taking in consideration the comments from the board and watching the video of the last presentation, we came to a conclusion that by doing a particular structure, we will invite people that are on the pedestrian side of the development, because along Crooks Road, there's an access through the back for the vehicles, but from the corner of Big Beaver and Crooks Road, the sense of a long sidewalk will be interrupted by this element that it will invite the entrance to the main area of the Season 52. Also add some kind of interest for not just the pedestrians, but the people that are driving by. It will emphasize the nightlife and the activity that will be along Crooks Road. Even though Big Beaver seems to be like the main boulevard that has to be developed, we figure out that providing this element to address to your concerns was going to be helpful to the development of the site.
Yeah, this entry feature also will be equipped with, some urban furniture. It's a bench that we are providing there.
Yeah. There's several instances within the site of Seasons 52 where you will see actually the close-up picture when it goes to the Yard House screenshots, where part of the art elements, in addition to that freestanding feature, also are the benches that are underneath the feature and also in between Seasons 52 and the Yard House. So that's addressing a comment from the board in regards somebody parking on the back of the building and having to walk between the buildings, having a little bit of a breather and relax and enjoy the magnificent architecture between the two projects.
Yes, Mr. Tego.
On that corner element, that freestanding corner element, is there a water feature in there? I'm seeing a blue color in your rendering, and I don't know if that was intended as a water feature or what that is.
No, it's a bench.
It's going to be changed to a bench. The first thoughts were to have a water feature, but as we develop it, the final rendering from our project is going to provide like a bench area. Right. There's we noticed also within the planning of the city, we noticed that there's a bus stop right somewhere around that location, and we noticed that there's no actually shelter or a bench to see. So that could be part of the interaction within the citizens of the area, and say, you know what, before the bus arrives to the area, I can just sit here and wait for it, and makes that interaction between the people that are passing by with the people that are enjoying the ambience of the patio.
An urban connector.
Mm-hmm.
Does that rendering actually show the final color of the rooftop? Is that going to be white?
Well, it's going to be a roof material similar to what is the canopy entrance, but that is going to be determined by the construction documents.
Okay.
And at this point, it's more like the roof colors is more like a little bit of artistic representation. that it's going to be then refined on the construction documents to comply with any building code.
Okay. So it'll be darker than what's actually shown?
Right, it should not be reflective at all, just in case, but it's just going to be a material that is going to sustain the weather and the transition of the seasons within the city.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Tego.
Can you speak a little bit about your color palette? There's a white color on there that seems really stark compared to the other warm colors. So how did you arrive at that being the right color?
Well, certainly, again, you know, we were very receptive with the comment, and in, you know, 100% honestly, we were not really happy with the previous color. So, yeah, we had discussions at the office, and we came up with several ideas, and, you know, we...
That's correct. This-
Sir, you may, I'll approach here. We remember the comments from the board saying that the colors were very peachy, very Florida style. And technically, our building is not designed to be in Florida. It's just that there's a transition between the selection of colors as we move forward with the design of the building. But then taking that consideration of a comment regarding the stone, one of the board members mentioned that why we have some nice natural color in our stone, and then the building itself was too peachy, too fruity. So we readdressed the comment by going through the palettes board and trying to see what was going on around in the master plan. And we consulted with the master planner, Jason, and we saw what was going on in the surrounding. And we thought, you know what, we need to get to the happy medium where we blend to every end of the spectrum. So we came with these colors and we put it on rendering. We did markers, color renderings. We do a lot of studies, and we came up with these two colors that I think address very well the master planning and the intent of the site design.
Is the lower left-hand color the color of where the white is on the
That's
model?
correct. It's not a pure white. It's more like a kind of bone white, a little softer. It's not super flashy. And it's kind of a color of transition as you look at the elements in the building.
Well, I think that goes a lot better with your palette on the board than what and I understand renderings on a computer, you don't get exact color rendition, but, okay, thank you.
Thank
You
you. Yeah,
you
Mr.
also
Adams.
point out which sections of the building are EVIS.
Well, technically, the building itself, what is called is the stock finish. It's a stucco finish building. The final product on the building is going to be stucco as you apply to plywood and metal lat or CMU. At the end of the day, what the clients or the guests or the city itself are going to see is a stucco finish in the building. What we did is try to play with the volumes to break it up a little bit. This used to be continuous surface. We break it up. We play with horizontal elements and materials. But itself, it blends better with the surrounding buildings because the Fidelity building has stones. It has horizontal elements addressed with the red color. So within our building, you're going to start to have those hints that attach to other buildings around the master plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the architect, or before we have the Yard House architect come up? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Trish Neerhoof with API. I'm the Yard House architect. You want to talk about lighting. The uplight goes for the corner deciduous trees on the west side of the building. So in these two tree banks that you kind of see, they will be uplighting the two corners.
Is there a better slide for this? Is this one more slide?
Yeah, go to the back.
No.
Hold on. Thought I had a view on that corner. No, that would be the best slide that shows that. they will be, go back one more slide.
There we go.
So there'll be 3 in this landscaping curve and then 2 in this landscaping curve, just to highlight those 2 corners, so when you come around the corner. Thanks. Would you like something that is not focusing on those, so people don't run the curbs?
I don't have a problem, I think it's very nice.
Yeah, I agree. It's delightful, it's fun.
Okay, I just didn't know.
The consultant raised the issue because he has to.
Right.
We don't have the authority, the planning commission, we don't have the authority to approve it. The planning commission has to specifically approve
Got it.
that type of light fixture.
And I'm not hearing a lot of pushback from the planning
Yeah.
commission.
Mr. Grant?
Yeah, I've got a quick comment about the guys hauling these barrels. Are those supposed to be,
Public art, last page.
yeah, are those supposed to be beer barrels or are those?
They are, they're half kegs.
Okay, is that how they look in real life?
Yes.
Because, you know, I know beer barrels that look different than us, just want to make sure this is the type you're using just to make,
Yes.
just make it all make sense.
Yep, so they will actually be half kegs, and then they're pin mounted off the building with a light blue hue behind them.
Nice, I love it.
I love the art, I hate the posture.
Yes.
They're gonna regret that in the morning.
Originally, we had single ones, and they were all tall, and then the designer's like, no, let's have all 3, so they're carrying them, and I'm like, oh, okay.
In motion, it's nice.
Is the outline of the person, what is that material?
It's aluminum.
Is it
It's
flush
like
or is it?
3/4 inch aluminum, it stands off the building.
Okay.
So they're 3D.
Yep. And then the bench we've added in between the 2 buildings. Give you a little bit of public art, someplace to sit down on your venture. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Ms. Cruz?
So you have a bench, right? And
It is on the
52
season
has-
52
It's the
season.
same bench,
It's
that's the
the
same
so
bench.
as between the 2 restaurants, there's only 1 bench?
In between the 2, yes, yep. Can you go to the site plan?
Site plan?
Yeah, page 4 of civil. C4. Almost
Yep.
there.
Oops.
So there is, oop, right.
Close, getting close.
You know what, I'm just gonna point. We have one right here, so it's in the middle of the road. Because I had to add the egress stair off of our mezzanine, so I didn't want to put one right where you entered. So we picked in the center. And then Seasons, you have one on the other side of the building?
There's, right there on the corner, if I may, I approach, there's one here. As people come in, there's one there, and that one that she's pointing, so it's kind of in between, and then it opens the space.
So where I'm going with this, so we've got Seasons with 1 bench, we have Yard House with 1 bench. And we've got a brand-new, really cool place in town, and one of them is gonna specialize in beers. And I'm thinking, if you're the person that wants to go to the restaurant and you've been told that you've got a half-hour or 40-minute wait, and the lobby area is full and you have to spill outside, where do you sit? Where do you make yourself comfortable while you're waiting on your little buzzer in your hand to go off, or whatever the
We
case
have
may
a
be?
full bar with 120 taps.
I hadn't really thought about that, about this project until now, but, you know, it would be nice if you're a person waiting on a table, if there are sufficient accommodations for you on benches or outside while you, especially in the warmer months, where you could people watch and watch the traffic and enjoy the whole package of what's going to be on that corner with some benches and some outdoor seating. I don't know that 2 benches are sufficient.
I concur with you, Ken. I think it's,
What's the maximum capacity of both restaurants combined? Or
We're 360.
We're around 300.
300?
Yeah.
And
We're
and
around
360.
So
That's a lot of
660.
people. I mean, those are big restaurants, and the spillover could be substantial.
You know, just keying in on Eddie V's, that parking lot is overpacked, and
Absolutely. You're always going across the street
Right.
at Eddie V's, and I just think it would be nice if we had a few more benches
You're gonna get
or
customers.
some more seating.
We usually offer our lobby usually are very, if you eventually go to the slide where you have the floor plan, we have a decent sized lobby and always we invite. Borrow that.
yeah.
So if you go to the floor plan, okay, so there's this whole area here, this is the transition, our lobby areas, this whole area. We usually get people to wait there for a couple of minutes, and most of the people actually like to go and enjoy a glass of wine at the bar, and while they get the served on the table. But, I mean, we can always offer additional benches along this area if needed or required.
Yeah, Mr. Carla.
I guess I'm just gonna put Darden on the spot. Would you be willing to put 2 more benches in? Common open space area?
They can't be that expensive.
Well, is 2 enough?
Do you want the same
so
type of
3.
boulder benches, or do you want regular benches that seat more?
The boulder bench is really pretty classy, I think. That's just my opinion.
I'm just asking.
With 2 more? 2 more.
Two more?
Just to add a little bit to it, so in Michigan, we've, basically a 4-month summer. In the summertime, we don't want to be in the air conditioning. If it's 75 degrees and a little breeze outside, you want to be outside.
Correct.
So if you can wait for your 30 minutes for your table outside,
Right, that would be.
it's always a viable
Correct.
option. So
Yes.
having another couple benches would, I think,
I think
help the experience.
2 more benches in that corridor area,
Yep.
each side right there, and we can replace them.
Okay.
And,
Sounds good.
okay, be right there by the arc.
And what were the benches called that you like?
They're called boulder benches.
Boulder benches.
Yeah, where one end sets on a boulder.
Right, we like nice looking things. We're an aesthetic bunch.
That's great.
Yes, Mr. Senzi.
I was curious about the parking. Will there be valet parking both these restaurants, or how?
Yes,
How will they be handled?
we share valet.
Share valet with the Season 52?
Yes.
Where would that be centered at? The valet? Right in the, between the 2 buildings?
That's correct, that's the main idea, just to develop little circle buildings, so it's like a center area where you can access the entrance to both buildings. So as you drive, excuse me, let me approach here again. As you drive in, probably the valet parking is going to be seated here somewhere. Then we'll have a long area for them to actually get off the car and then have to go to both of the buildings.
Where are they handicapped?
Come again?
They handicapped?
Well, they have ADA access here at this point, because there's access from the ADA. If you decide not to do the valet and park by yourself, there's ADA access all the way to this point and all the corners. So even if you valet here and you're in ADA, you have access to the sidewalk.
I see there's blue marks there for the ADA parking.
There to the, as you're walking towards the building, there
Yeah.
to the left
I see it
is
now.
the ADA.
Yes, Mr. Senzi.
Just curious, how do the 2 restaurants relate to each other? I mean, is there some symbiotic relationship between the 2, or are they two independent restaurants?
Well, I'd say from Darden's perspective, we like to capture whatever audience, not whatever audience, but different audiences. So Yard House attracts a different audience from seasons, the seasonal menu, wine pairings with their menu items, a little different offering, if you will. So when the family's going out for dinner, hey, what are you up to tonight? Whether it's Seasons or Yard House, we don't get the veto vote, so to speak. We can capture both of them. So that's how they kind of play off each other.
Are these all Darden restaurants?
These 2 are, yes.
There isn't anything in this development that has a rooftop feature, is there? Wouldn't that be cool if there was a rooftop feature? Any thought given to a rooftop feature?
Kind of like Sedona's done.
We have a mezzanine, which we show all of our kegs from the inside of our restaurant. So that's our main feature.
That's too bad, because on that corner especially, there's a lot of activity, and there would be a lot of reasons to attract a customer upstairs to the rooftop to enjoy cold beer, good weather, scenery, a fire pit.
We have fire features on our seasonal patio.
Comfy cushion chairs, good company, some music. Do I need to go on?
He's had to talk to the insurance company about that.
But there is some fire elements also proposed for the top of the entry feature off of Brooks Road as well. Adds that element of fire and the interest and attraction on the corner.
Fire is good when it's chilly. It still encourages you to sit outside. You can warm up by the fire.
I might just point out that Sedona didn't do the rooftop feature until after they'd been in for a year. And there was such a demand for it that they put it in. So,
The winter version.
yes, it's very nice.
I'm not afraid to sit outside in my coat and have a beer in front of the fire. Not afraid.
Very good.
Any other questions for the, yes,
I'm gonna
Mr.
get back to the
Senzica?
parking again. This will be valet parking, but I was just curious, of the parking that is there, how many spaces are there? If you have 700 customers, you might have 350 cars potentially. Will a lot of these cars be parking in the deck, or what's the idea?
I would think that the majority of them, if not all of them, would park in the deck. We'd have worked that out with in a quarter.
So it's true shared parking on the entire site. So if you recall, when Planning Commission looked at the concept drawing, they had to prove that there was enough parking based on these uses at the location. So we're, from a planning perspective, ADA aside, because ADA, proximity to the building for people with mobility limitations are really important. But that aside, it's going to be true shared parking, and a lot of people are going to park in the deck, which is why we wanted that experience of the streetscape with the benches and the trash receptacles and the landscaping, et cetera, so that when you park in the deck and you walk, you've got that experience.
I'm sure a lot of people will be valet parking, that's a long walk, I would think, from the deck to the Seasons 52 restaurant.
It's actually not.
No, I said that.
It's really not. It's how many feet, but it's just kitty corner to those buildings.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like what you did with the garbage. The only thing I'm a little, are those gates that do open, are they some type of automatic gates that would close once the trash hauler takes it out? Would they automatically close?
They are not automatic.
Yeah, I would just,
Are they rolled down? Is that what they are?
Nope, they just
They
come out.
open up?
I would suggest you take a look at that, because it's very inexpensive, and you don't want trash enclosures. We have enough problems with those at other sites in the city right now, but it's just my suggestion.
They will have to be closed because do they project it?
They do. They do, yeah, so they will have to be closed at all times.
All right. Thank you.
Our recycling will also be in there, so our managers will be monitoring that they are closed.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Or are we ready for a resolution?
If you're parked there.
Ms. Cooper,
Motion to,
you want to read the resolution? Read the resolution?
I got it. Preliminary site plan review, proposed Yard House Restaurant and Seasons 52 restaurant, northeast corner of Big Beaver and Crooks, 950 and 1000 West Big Beaver, section 21, currently zoned BB, Big Beaver District. Resolve that preliminary site plan approval pursuant to Article 8 of the zoning ordinance as requested for the proposed Yard House Restaurant and Seasons 52 Restaurant, located on the northeast corner of Big Beaver and Crooks, 950 and 1000 West Big Beaver, Section 21, within the Big Beaver BB District, be granted.
Two benches.
The benches.
Two additional
Oh,
boulder
with the
benches.
two additional boulder benches in the common area between the two buildings.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Edmonds and moved by Ms. Koopa. Roll call, Ms. Zarnicki, please.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Prince?
Yes.
Ms. Koopa?
Yes.
Mr. Zanziga?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Abhidian?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Nice job.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job.
One maybe we make reservations.
Soon as
What you-
today,
what
soon
you
as
talking
tonight.
When is the planning commission party? Everyone wants to know, what is being invited to dinner?
We'll fly you up to Florida again.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
fly
you
you up
very
to
much.
Florida again.
Appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You'll be first on the list, Mr. Edmonds. Your name is already down.
Which one are we going to first?
I figure we'll have one up front of our building and then one back
Well,
here.
we'll have dinner, we're having our drinks at the yard house.
So, you know,
All I'm walking the distance in my cups.
Because they have one out here.
Don't worry about parking.
No.
that's great.
Is that right?
We'll take Claire up for graduation.
There you go.
Good night, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, guys, bye.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Looks like you're more overbuying.
Actually, it was very helpful thing with the proper community.
Better project, looks great.
Are we ever going to see Jason again?
Oh, yeah.
We will move on to item number 10, public comment items on the current agenda. Seeing no one in the audience for public comment on the current agenda, we will move to planning commission comments, item number 11 on the agenda. And let's start with Mr. Faison.
No comments from me.
Mr. Tagle.
Nothing for me tonight.
Ms. Koopa.
Okay, we're going to stop for a minute. My capstone presentation will be on the 27th because we have instead of planning commission meeting on the 13th, we have a retreat. And I will be missing my ZBA meeting because of the planning commission, city council meeting on the 20th. Now, I had a question. Mr. Evans said there's no issue, but I just wanted to confirm with you. When I'm the representative from the Planning Commission to the ZBA, and they have alternates for the ZBA, why would somebody be an alternate for me? Because I'm representing the Planning Commission there. An alternate wouldn't be representing the Planning Commission there. So I just had a doubt about that question. So, Ms. Dufresne, do you?
It doesn't, it's, we're not required to have an alternate elected, selected for ZBA. It's just really if there's an alternate there, it's to meet the voting requirements of the board. So it's, if you're not there, as long as they have quorum, as long as they can conduct their business.
Okay.
I understand your point. So your point is they're not alternating for you as the planning commission member, but they could be alternating to make sure there's quorum or whatever.
Okay, all right, and then I have one more thing is, we had one Civic Center meeting at the Troy Public Library a couple of Saturdays ago. I highly recommend tomorrow night from 6 to 8 at the community center that we attend if we at all possibly can, but I hope that anyone who's watching this also comes. And I think that it's important that if you like the Civic Center plan, you should come too, not just if you have questions or if you have objections, but even those who like the plan should come to voice so that we know we're doing a good job at having these concepts of having a Civic Center plan, or just as general feedback, so that we don't have, our feedback is not skewed with only people who are not happy with the plan or who have a lot of questions or So that's just a comment. And I think that's it for now.
Back to Mr. Tagle.
Didn't we once have an alternate from the planning commission for ZBA years ago? It seemed to me we did, but I can't be sure.
The law changed.
Yeah, the law, our ordinance changed to
Right, so
become
right in our
consistent with state law. So I think you're right, but we're now
Okay.
more consistent with state law.
Mr. Grant?
Nothing?
Mr. Senzigan?
No comment.
Ms. Cruz?
I'll just piggyback on what Ms. Koopa said. I attended that meeting at the Troy Public Library. I mean, I saw most of you there. What struck me the most about that meeting was not that we had a, contingency of our population there for it and a contingency of our population there that was sort of against it and some that were, undecided. What struck me was the idea of the people that were in the room that somehow their elected officials or the planning commission is inaccessible, that they don't feel like they have enough notice, they didn't know the meeting was going on, they don't feel like they're involved. And I find that to be incredibly unfortunate. But at the same time, I also understand that within our, I'm going to call it the judicial system, whatever. I mean, you have to be at some level proactive. Did you get the sense, and maybe you don't even want to answer this, that some people feel like they should have an invitation sent to their home, first-class mail, and let them know that there's going to be a public meeting of sorts when it's posted in accordance with the law? I mean, the city of Troy follows all of the legal standards and guidelines required for any sort of a public meeting, and yet people still feel like they've been slighted or not informed. So I don't know how you begin to solve that problem. I can tell you on more than one occasion as an attorney, there's been many, many, many times that I wish whatever law that it was I was supporting or arguing against somehow followed common sense or somehow followed what I believe to be right, but that isn't always the case. And so I tried to make it a point at that meeting to let our residents know we're available by email 24/7. It's out there on the website. You want to email Planning Commission? You can do that at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're stewing about the idea. You want to email City Council? You can do that at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're stewing about the idea. But that was my biggest takeaway, was that people just feel like they have no idea what's going on in this city, and yet I feel like we work very, very hard to inform people and to get the word out and to be inclusive.
The feeling I actually got was that people felt it was a done deal, that this is what we were building, that plan that was in that book. And I've been trying to tell people that that was a concept plan that took 4 years with a lot of expertise that we paid for to put together, a lot of thinking of experts and people whose profession it is to do it, create a concept plan for us after many groups gave input. And that was a concept, and the idea is that concept then go out, and then we get feedback to see if that concept, and so it wasn't that we decided that we're gonna do anything, that we're building anything right away. And I think that was the big misconception that I find that we need to sort of straighten out.
Well, and there's that. There was one comment that was posted on the board and then repeated in the Troy Times where a person said, the future of this city should not be left to 7 elected officials. Well, then who, right? I mean, if you've elected these officials to represent you and you don't want them to make decisions on your behalf, then who? I don't understand who else there might do that. So I don't know. I sort of walked away perplexed and a little disappointed, and I don't know. I'll go tomorrow night. We'll see how it goes. But I have said before, and I will say it again. I'm not against any part of public feedback, but I don't want to do it at the expense of discounting the expert that we've paid for, who's come to us and said, if you want this to work, you've got to have these elements, and some of these elements are non-negotiables. Okay, I'm done, I'm off my soapbox.
Mr. Hudson.
No comments.
Did I exhaust you?
You always exhaust me, Karen.
Sorry, Nikki. Ms. Howe.
Well, I think Karen raises a really good point, and I always think, there are something like 52,000 registered voters in Troy, and we certainly don't want all 52,000 of them at any one meeting, but I think as appointed officials and the city council as elected officials, they need just to keep that in mind when we're arriving at a decision, that we hear what I call the vocal minority. The vast majority of voters either don't care, or are for it, or don't care. And they're willing to leave it up to whoever that is making the decision. So I think that's a balance that you have to keep in mind when you make your decision. That's all.
Yeah, Mr. Frank.
Nothing, thank you.
No comment. Mr. Suggs.
So Ben's going to kick me on the table because he wants to leave, and so do I, but tonight's a good example. So the first time we considered this project, they were not compliant with their zoning ordinance, so we postponed them, but gave them direction. And it's refreshing that they listened.
Yes.
And they also used the architect for the overall master plan to help facilitate them, kind of getting on board with the overall design for the whole site and kind of pulling it together, softening the colors, and I agree with the one architect who said it's a better project. My opinion, dramatically better project than when we first saw it. So I'm very glad for that.
Robert?
There's a
Yes.
level of professionalism from that team that we don't always see. Right? So I agree and echo your comments.
I think that when they first came forward with the entire master concept of that corner, 888 Big Beaver, it was very inspiring to see what the potential of that corner would be. And as the project progressed, every single individual project being fine-tuned, I think at the end of the day, it's a very fine-tuned project, just looking at every individual plot that is being developed there. Even they had a great start, but now the structure going up and the apartments that are being planned there, that site is going to be first-class site. Yes, Ms. Cooper.
I just wanted to go back one more time to the whole Civic Center. So a lot of people also had objection that we're taking away green space, but the Parks and Rec Committee met a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Edmonds and I were both there, and they are forming a new committee, subcommittee for the Parks and Rec to evaluate. First, they're going to define what we mean by open space and green space, and then we're going to have some people look at what we have left, because the idea that Troy is being overdeveloped or something, first of all, a lot of the open space that exists now is not owned by the city.
No, it's private land.
It's private land. And so that's one piece of it. Then the other piece of it is, what do we mean by green space? Because manicured lawns may be green space to some, but it may not be green space to others. And so Tim McGee is the one chairing that committee. I believe that's also a public meeting. Members of the community are welcome to attend. I know that one of our newest council members, David Hamilton, is also, I believe, on that committee. I did not volunteer since I have ZBA. But I guess, please keep informed of what's happening there.
Actually, just to piggyback on that, right behind us, we have two GIS maps. So we got city-owned space, and that's the total green space in the city. So that actually paints a very accurate picture of how much private green space actually exists versus city-owned green space. So just to
Well, the other, one other really,
That includes the
That includes
private, right?
private.
one other really important thing that came out, and I don't know if a lot of people understood it, because they think that we're taking up all the green space if we develop this project. And actually, you heard Bob Gibbs and Matt Farrell explain, with the concept plan, we don't lose green space, it's just rearranged. You know, part of it's a lake, you know, part of it's other parks. So we're really not losing any green space on this site.
No, I remember him,
Yeah,
I remember
right.
him saying that, right.
Okay. Any other thoughts, comments?
I don't know, do I want to bring up design ordinances? Nah, no.
No, you don't.
Just kidding.
They're working on it.
Just kidding. We're done. You can adjourn.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.